So there is a huge misconception about health savings accounts. Most people think you can only use health savings accounts to cover healthcare costs, but in actuality, health savings accounts are the most tax efficient investment vehicle out there. Health savings accounts are triple tax advantage. The money that you put in is pre-tax. All the growth inside of the health savings account is tax-free, and you can spend it right now on qualified medical expenses and pay zero taxes. Sounds too good to be true? If you stick around, I will explain exactly how to make that happen. I'm Terrell Higgins, your real estate and personal finance guide, and the goal of the channel is to help you master your finances and start living the life of your dreams. I've crunched the numbers, I've done all the research, and I've employed these strategies in my own finances. So in today's video, we're going to be breaking down how HSAs work, why they are so powerful, and how you can actually turn them into the most tax-efficient investment in your entire portfolio. Let's get into it. So let's clear up a very common misconception. Health savings accounts are not flexible spending accounts. If you put money into a flexible spending account, an FSA, the money goes away if you don't spend it by the end of the year. And if you put money in an HSA, it stays in the account. You can roll the money over from year to year to year. And all the money that you put into an HSA comes out pre-tax. There are some contribution limits. So if you're single, the contribution limit is $4,300. And if you have a family, the contribution limit is $8,550. That is a sizable tax deduction that's going to put more money in your pocket and less money in Uncle Sam's. So why do I like HSAs so much? So the first reason is it gives you immediate spending power. All that money that you put in pre-tax, you can actually spend right away tax-free. And you can spend it on qualified medical expenses, so the obvious things like doctor visits and prescriptions, but there's some less obvious things as well. So one of my coworkers was actually able to buy a high-end massage gun that got prescribed to them after they suffered a sports injury. And there are websites that actually list out all the different things you can spend your HSA dollars on. And the overarching rule is if you can get a prescription for it, it probably qualifies for your HSA. The second reason I really like HSAs is the long-term investment potential. So this is where the magic really happens. You can put the money into the HSA, and if you aren't spending on medical costs, you can actually invest those funds. So most HSAs, once you reach a certain balance, anything past that balance, you can actually invest in the stock market. So imagine investing when you're young into an S&P 500 index fund in your HSA and letting it compound into your later years when your medical costs actually rise. So the third reason, and this is actually the cheat code portion of HSAs, is that you can defer reimbursement from your HSA. So what do I mean by that? You don't actually have to pay your medical expenses right away out of your HSA. If you just keep those medical expense receipts, you can cash them out at any point in the future. So you can pay out of pocket, keep the receipts, and then when you want money later, cash in those receipts out of your HSA. So you're allowing the funds in your HSA to compound. So if you're young and your healthcare costs are low and you can pay out of pocket, you can let those funds in your HSA grow and grow uninterrupted. And if you need money in the future, you can just take some of those old medical receipts and get reimbursements from your HSA. The one caveat is that you can't reimburse yourself for medical expenses that happened before you open the HSA, but it can be a powerful tool to get money out tax-free when you actually need it. So a good example of this deferred reimbursement, imagine you are paying out of pocket about $200 a year for Tylenol and NyQuil, and over 10 years, that's about $2,000 of spending. But instead of actually taking it out of your HSA, you let that money compound in an S&P 500 index fund. Over 10 years, that $2,000 would have turned into $4,500. And 10 years from now, if you needed $2,000 for some expense, you could reimburse yourself with all those receipts that you kept along that time frame, and you still have that additional money left over that you let compound in that HSA. Hopefully you're starting to see how powerful a tool these HSAs are.
Oh, okay.
Healthcare costs are one of the major concerns people have in retirement, and rightfully so, because 90% of people over the age of 60 have one chronic health condition, and 80% of people have multiple chronic health conditions by the time they're 60 years old. And those healthcare costs start to skyrocket. So if you manage to make it to 65 and you don't have any major health issues and you've built up this large HSA nest egg, you can actually start making non-healthcare related withdrawals from your HSA. The only catch is non-healthcare related withdrawals from your HSA will get taxed as income. But at any point, you can still make healthcare related withdrawals, and those will be completely tax-free. So we've laid out why HSAs are so amazing, but there are some key drawbacks to using HSAs. So the first one is that to qualify to use an HSA, you have to be on a high deductible healthcare plan. And high deductible healthcare plans have lower premiums, but they have much higher out-of-pocket costs. So if you are managing a chronic health condition or you have kids that are going to the doctor frequently, being on that high deductible healthcare plan is going to cost you a lot of money. And it could be more than what you could save by using an HSA. The second thing is your annual contribution limits are pretty low for an HSA. So if you're trying to supercharge your savings for retirement, there are better vehicles for that. There are catch-up contributions of an additional $1,000 that you can do if you're past the age of 55, but that's still way less than what you can stash in a 401k or IRA. And one other key thing to note is that once you start drawing Medicare, you can no longer contribute to the HSA. You can withdraw funds from the HSA, but you can't keep adding to that nest egg in your HSA once you start drawing Medicare. There are also substantial penalties for using your HSA money on non-qualified medical expenses before 65. So there is a 20% penalty, and then you also have to pay income taxes on that money. So there is a double whammy if you try and use your HSA money on non-qualified expenses before you're 65. And another big drawback is the record keeping. Not everyone is going to be diligent enough with their records to maintain all those medical receipts for years and potentially decades into the future. And if you try and reimburse yourself for past medical expenses without the appropriate receipts, you could be hit with those steep penalties, that 20% and income tax. If you got some value out of my video today, please like and subscribe and share this message with more and more people. If you're serious about retirement planning, HSAs are an account you can't afford to ignore. And if you're curious how you could access your retirement funds well before traditional retirement age, I actually did an entire video on that topic. Keep getting 1% better every day, and I will catch you guys next time. You can only use... Come on, Onyx, don't play with the light. What do we do with this? What? No.